What's up, guys? Welcome to the Second Take. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jonah.
And we're back for more football action. We're also going to talk a little bit about the World Series since the Cubs fans are still on cloud nine and haven't even realized that the World Series is happening yet, probably. But we're going to kick it off this week with the NFL. So Jonah's going to give us the records, and then we'll get into our picks.
Yeah, so we each went 4-2 last week. I'm counting in the Seattle-Arizona game, I had Seattle, Zach had Arizona. I'm counting that as a loss for both of us because that game was a loss for football fans everywhere, and it ended up as a tie. So, but we each won our upset because we both had San Diego beating Atlanta, and we also both won our locks. So we went 4-2 for the week, which leaves me still up 8 points, 30-22. It's funny, like I built this lead entirely in weeks 2 and 4. Over the last 3 weeks, we're each 11-7 over the last 3 weeks exactly.
I mean, it's been bad picking the whole way. Like, we haven't done well. I mean, you had 1 week you did extremely well where you didn't lose, but other than that,
yeah, it's been a pretty rough year picking wise because the game's been terrible. But we'll get to that later. So this week, we'll be having some more picks for you. We're going to start out with this game's in London, Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. We've been shipping some pretty bad games to London. No offense to the Giants.
Yes,
but
watch your mouth.
But, nobody wants to see the Rams, realistically.
Well, considering the fact that they play one home game in London every year for the last, 5 years.
Right.
And they still haven't developed a fan base over there, so.
Well, they've been sending the Jaguars over there every single year.
Yeah.
Which is really a crime against humanity. But so our London game this week is the Redskins against the Bengals. I was going to say the Redskins at the Bengals, but it's not at the Bengals. But the Redskins are 4-3. The Bengals are 3-4. The Bengals have been pretty disappointing. They haven't played as bad as their record is. They've lost to good teams, for sure. But they look pretty shaky all year. But again, I don't love the Redskins either. I don't have a lot of faith in Kirk Cousins. So this is a matchup of two teams I don't love, either of them.
Yeah, so Kirk Cousins, I don't know if you saw this, but he's developed a new saying. It's, "Are you fond of that?" since he's over the pond.
Oh my god!
Yeah, just for
I hate that guy.
Just for that, I should pick the Bengals, which I plan on doing.
Michigan State guy, really.
Yeah, that's a Michigan fan talking, in case you didn't know. But AJ Green, what does AJ Green have to do in order to be considered the best receiver in the NFL? Can anyone answer that question?
He has to get a better quarterback so he can outperform Julio Jones. But
well, I mean, the man. Did you see his catch last week? And basically Hail Mary.
No, I didn't watch any of that game.
Hail Mary at the end of the first quarter, and he tipped the ball to himself. Okay, granted it was against the Browns, but there were 4 corners surrounding him. It looked like a shark surrounding a human in the water. He just taps it to himself, catches it, touchdown, whatever, carry on. It was one of the best catches I've ever seen. It was nothing.
Yeah, but keep in mind that was only possible because our boy Jordan Poyer was in the game. So
God bless.
God bless. Get well soon.
I'm sure
we mentioned him on, I think, each of the last 7.
Dude, if I was him,
so that's good.
I'd never get healthy. I would stay at that house forever.
Absolutely.
Anyways, I'm going with the Bengals because I hate the Redskins. I don't think they're that good, and yeah, the AJ Green's on the Bengals. There you go.
Yeah, I'm picking the Bengals as well. I think this is a big game for them because they got to start winning games against teams that are roughly of similar caliber as them if they want to make the playoffs again. Because the AFC isn't super competitive right now. It might. It's possible to take 11 wins to get an NFC wild card. That's definitely not true in the AFC. But do have to get back to 500.
Right.
So I think they'll be playing hard in this one. These games are always weird.
Yeah, that's tough. The beginning of the game is always one team always starts really slow. The Giants were down 10-0 almost before I blinked last weekend. But obviously they came back and won. So I don't know. I expect somebody to start slow, maybe both to start slow, but then second half it should pick up.
Yeah, I just don't trust the I just don't really trust Kirk Cousins in this game.
Exactly.
So next up is a 1:00 game on Sunday. You have the Arizona Cardinals at the Carolina Panthers, which is a rematch of last year's NFC Championship game, but the fortunes for these teams have been a little bit less good since then. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
It's certainly been worse for the Panthers than for the Cardinals. The Cardinals are at 3-3-1 after that absolutely atrocious Sunday night tie last week against Seattle. The Panthers are 1-5, which you hear a lot about hangovers for teams that lose the Super Bowl, and that's happening like to a really great extent with the Panthers. This is like absolutely a must-win game for the Panthers. If they're not done already, they're done if they lose this game. But it should be interesting because like the Panthers are better than 1-5, but I think the Cardinals are also better than 500.
Yeah, if the season ended today, the Panthers would have the fourth pick in the draft, and I don't even want to know like what could happen there if you had someone that was that good to Cam Newton's team. So hopefully they start winning just for the sake of NFC opponents in the future. But I think if you learned anything from the 6-6 tie, other than the fact that field goal kickers are human and can't make everything, it would be that Arizona's defense seems like it might be back, playing at the level that it was last year and even the year before that. Tyrann Mathieu is getting healthier and healthier by the week, and I rave about him constantly, and I think you're going to see a scarier safety here. He's actually moved him back to corner, which seemed like it's been working pretty well. However, their offense has been a different story. Carson Palmer has been not bad, but not great. David Johnson's incredible and as advertised, but that offense really needs to get going. You can't score 6 points and expect to win a game. I don't care how good your defense is. Luckily for Arizona, they're running into a Panthers team that basically doesn't have a secondary. Like more or less, they just play 7 guys at the line of scrimmage and hope that nothing bad happens behind them, which is impossible.
Yeah.
So I expect I expect Arizona to pick it up a little bit. And they also get to have a slight chip on their shoulder since they did lose this game last year. So I'm going with the Cardinals.
Yeah, I'm also going with the Cardinals here. I think, like you said, there were some encouraging signs, at least for the defense, of a 6-6 game. And they're playing a defense that's not nearly as good as the one they faced this week. I don't think that this Panthers team is like cooked and done, and we'll never see anything good from like a Cam Newton-led Panthers team again. But I think that I underestimated the problems that would come from how bad the secondary was going to be for the Panthers, and I think that the Cardinals offense should get going here. I don't know how good a game David Johnson's going to have, but Carson Palmer should have a good day. And yeah, I'm going to also go with the Cardinals in that one. So that brings us to
Green Bay, Atlanta.
Yeah, Green Bay, Atlanta. This is at 4:25. This is in Atlanta. Falcons are 4-3. The Packers are 4-2. It's a pretty interesting matchup. The Falcons have been better than a lot of people expected. I know both of us are still a little wary of the Falcons, but they always have a good home field advantage in general. So, and the Packers haven't exactly looked dominant themselves. So this should be an interesting game.
Yeah, the Falcons are coming off 2 losses by less than 3 points, one of which was a really bad loss to the Chargers, where they blew a pretty good-sized lead late in the fourth quarter, ended up losing in overtime. I feel like this game could go either way. I expect it to be extremely high scoring just because both the Packers secondary is pretty banged up and the Falcons don't really even have a secondary. So you get 2 good quarterbacks and a bunch of good receivers and basically just have a field day. There's Ty Montgomery is still going to be the starting running back for Green Bay, which if you even can call him a running back since he catches 10 balls out of the backfield a game and runs it like 4 times. I really do think this will be a good game, though, like I said. And I think the Packers are going to have to be pretty darn good to win this game. And I keep trying to talk myself into the Packers, but I also feel like the Falcons are going to win the game. But I made a rule that I never pick against Aaron Rodgers, and it's probably a bad rule because he hasn't been great yet. But I'm going to go with the. Wow, yeah, I'm going to go with the Packers.
Yeah, this is a really tough game to pick, I think. This is about as even as it gets. I have a lot of questions about both teams. I'm going to go with Atlanta here, although I don't love picking against Aaron Rodgers. But they have home field here. The Packers haven't exactly looked great. They're starting wide receiver at running back. They have some issues throughout the team, injury-wise. So I'm going to go with Atlanta, but I don't feel super great about it.
Yeah, I've just figured out my reasoning. So I think the Packers are coming off a bye, maybe.
No, they played the Bears last
Thursday.
week. It was on Thursday.
Right.
So they have a long week.
Yeah, so they're coming off 10 days, which means Aaron Rodgers has a lot of time, which I like. And secondly, Tevin Coleman is not going to play for the Falcons, and the Packers have the number one run defense. At least they did until they played you. I don't know if that's still the case.
Zeke Elliott made short work of that defense.
Oh, shut up. So for that reason, since they have no change of pace back, I'm going to stick with the Packers. So then we will get to the game that Jonah's been waiting to talk about. We have
Game of the week.
Oh, God. Eagles-Cowboys in Dallas, Sunday night. Bright lights shining on two rookie quarterbacks, young teams that nobody really had much expectation in, and they're two of the best teams in the NFC so far. So I'll let Jonah start this one.
Yeah, I'll just spoil my analysis now by saying that I'm picking the Cowboys. I might be a little too enthusiastic about that. I always get nervous when they play Sunday night games against division teams because even when the Cowboys are the better team, which I think is the case here, they often find a way to not win those games. The Cowboys did make the right decision to start Prescott in this game. I'm happy they did that. Des Bryant will probably be back. Tyron Smith is a game-time decision, so that could be big, whether he plays or not. But I like this Cowboys team a lot. I mean, we've talked about it plenty, so I don't need to get into how much I love Ezekiel Elliott any more than I already have. But I think the Eagles are going to have a tough time stopping this offense, and I think it's possible the Eagles get some points too. But I don't love Carson Wentz. They did beat the Vikings last week, but Wentz didn't exactly play great in that game. And they did have the benefit of being at home for that one. So I think Wentz could struggle in this game, even though theoretically they could make some progress against the Cowboys defense. And I think the Cowboys are going to score a bunch of points in this game. So I am riding with Dallas like I have for a while now.
Yeah, so I'm gonna pick the Eagles, and there's one major reason why, and it's because the Giants desperately need the Eagles to win this game. So therefore I have to give them good karma. I do think the Eagles defense is really, really good. They fly around the ball. They're insanely athletic. They've been making great plays, and they just whooped an undefeated Vikings team coming off a bye week. So. I mean,
it was an impressive defensive performance for Seattle. For Philly.
Yeah, they don't come anywhere near winning that game without their defense. They didn't even they scored one offensive touchdown, which whatever. But I think this is going to be the first game that we see Dak get just a little bit flustered because I think they're going to be bringing a lot of blitzes. And I think that
it's going to happen sometime.
Right. So. And knowing Dallas, it's going to happen at the worst possible time, which is when Romo's getting healthy and Dak is starting to maybe not look perfect, which will cause exactly. Right. So now that I just ruined Jonah's night, we're going to just carry on. So Eagles are going to win this one, in my opinion.
All right. So let's move on to our locks and upsets. We'll start with the locks. There's not a lot of high spreads this week. The the biggest favorite is a 6.5-point favorite this week. Normally you see some spreads getting up to 10, but we got nothing near that this week. For our upset rules this week, we've tweaked them a little bit. There were very few options for our rule of you have to be more than a field goal underdog, but there's a lot of spreads that are exactly 3. So this week we're allowing you to pick an underdog that's exactly a 3-point underdog. But we'll start with the locks. I am going with the Patriots as my lock in Buffalo. I don't love picking road teams as locks, and the Bills have been pretty impressive this year, especially McCoy has had his first really great year in Buffalo. But there's just no chance that Belichick loses twice in the same season to Buffalo. Brady's back and pissed off. I feel like we've been talking about this every week since he came back. But I'm not betting against the Patriots the way they look right now.
Yeah, and I'll even make you more sure of that pick by telling you that LaShawn McCoy is not going to play this weekend.
Oh my God, you're right.
So,
I'm an idiot.
So you feel even better now about that
I feel
pick.
even better now.
Yeah.
See, I was going to do it anyway. Sure I am.
I'm going to do the same thing.
I was just testing.
I'm going to do the same thing. That's like the one game this week that I think, yes, absolutely that's going to happen. So I got Patriots also.
So, okay, so for my upset, there's, again, kind of not a great set of options this week. But I don't love this pick, but I kind of just feel like doing it. I am going to go with the San Diego Chargers as my upset for the second week in a row on the road. It's a tall order to have them win 2 road games in a row. They're going into a tough environment in Denver. But I haven't been super impressed by everything I've seen from the Broncos so far this year. They are 5-2. They're certainly playing well. They beat the Texans pretty solidly last week, but the Texans are pretty bad. I think even though the Chargers are 3-4, I think they're a better team than the Texans are. I think you'd agree with that assessment also.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked what I saw from the Chargers last week. It wasn't a fluky win over Atlanta. They were legitimately good. And I think they might actually be a legitimately good team. They're just in a really tough division in the AFC West. I would not be surprised to see them come out with the last AFC wild card. The way it looks right now in terms of wild cards, it's looking like some mixture of San Diego, Oakland, Cincinnati, and Buffalo. Probably 2 of those 4 teams. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers come away with that. And it wouldn't shock me to see them win this one in Denver. So I'm going with them as my upset for the second week in a row.
I'm about to say 2 things that will make Jonah roll his eyes. First, this is not my pick, except it's not my pick because the spread's too low, but I think that the Saints are going to beat the Seahawks this week. One, because the Seahawks have to go cross country to play a 1 o'clock game, and Jonah knows my rule about that. And 2, because the Saints are at home and they're deadly at home.
But
so
the Chargers just won doing that last week.
It's true. It's true.
But
I
don't like the Saints team at all.
Seattle also does not have Cam Chancellor, does not have Michael Bennett. So there's some injuries. Some things could happen. Who knows? So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Saints. But my pick, which was potentially going to be Jonah's lock, I'm actually going to take the upset and take the Colts over the Chiefs. Getting Dante Moncrief back, pairing him with T.Y. Hilton, I think is going to help out Andrew Luck at the right time, because God knows what could have happened if Marcus Peters could have just locked down T.Y. Hilton. So I think that the Colts are going to put up a decent amount of points here. And these guys always go back and forth whenever they play each other. There's always a lot of points scored, and it's always a good game. So I expect the same thing, and I think the Colts are going to pull one out.
Yeah, I mean, if the Colts can win this one against a good Chiefs team, I might start thinking a little differently about them. But I haven't really been that impressed by even their wins this year. So if I see them have like a really good win, which this game would be, then I might think differently about it. But I want to go there with them just yet.
Right.
So that's our picks for this week. Do you want to get into some mid-season awards now?
So we're going to Yeah, go ahead.
Only a couple of these awards are like conventional, actual NFL awards. Like we're doing MVP and Coach of the Year, but we're also going to do least valuable player and worst Coach of the Year, because that's, I don't know, it's more fun to talk about like bad players than good players sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And we're also going to do the most good surprising team and the most bad surprising team. I phrased that really terribly, but so that's what we're going to get into. Do you want to start out with MVP?
Sure.
That's a pretty interesting conversation this year because there's not like a clear-cut guy.
Yeah, that could work. Alright, so there's a couple options here in my mind, most, if not all of which, are quarterbacks. I'm hesitant to put Ezekiel Elliott in the conversation just because, I don't know why I'm hesitant, just because I feel like he's not, because I feel like if Alfred Morris or Darren McFadden were running the ball, they'd have a lot of success also, as we've seen in the past. So that's why I'm a little hesitant to put him in this MVP group. But I would say Matt Ryan. You could probably argue Derek Carr.
Yeah, he's been good.
And then
Stafford too, really.
Stafford, yeah, but they're not in the playoffs picture currently. So
that's true.
Takes them a notch down. But I guess I'd have to go with. I guess I would have to go with Matt Ryan. Not that I want to, just that he's been the best so far. He leads the league in passing, got a good QBR, a lot of touchdowns, and he's taking a Falcons team into the playoffs if it ended today, which I didn't think was even going to be close to possible. And they should have this division locked up, even though they don't have it even close to locked up. You would expect that they're the best team of the Bucs and the Saints. So I guess I go Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I think I'd go with Matt Ryan as well. I'm not sure it'll end up that way. One hot take for you. Wouldn't shock me if Tom Brady was the MVP. And here's why.
He absolutely should be. Like, if he played all games, he would be.
Well, right, and the thing is, though, like, I could see... So, there's a few narratives that could come together to make Tom Brady the MVP. If the Patriots win all the rest of their games, which is certainly possible, they've already beaten like a weakened Pittsburgh team.
They'll be favored in every game.
Right, they'll be favored in every game. So if they win all their games, or maybe only lose one more, like say they finish 14-2 and they go 8-1 down the stretch, and Brady just plays out of his mind, plays himself into the top 6 or 7 in passing yards, even after missing the first 4 games. There could be a narrative like, look how valuable Tom Brady is, look how good this team is when Brady's on it. And I could also, if the writers want to send a little FU Roger Goodell message, which I'm always for, they could force him to give Tom Brady the MVP award, and that would just be, and I hate the Patriots, but I hate Goodell more.
Wouldn't that be a press conference to see?
Yeah, I mean, I hate Goodell more than I hate the Patriots, and so it would make even me happy to see him have to give the MVP award to Tom Brady. So that'd be pretty interesting.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, Brady's my dark horse MVP pick, but as of right now, I'd go with Matt Ryan as well.
Okay. So we're gonna go with our least valuable players now, and it's not meant like the phrasing of the award isn't necessarily how we're gonna pick it. It's more a player.
There are guys who aren't valuable that aren't fits for this award.
Right. It's a we're gonna pick a player that is a significant player on a team, but he's just really bad. So I'll go first. I would give this award to Ryan Fitzpatrick, except he kind of made me take a second look after his performance at the end of last week's game. So this might be surprising to some people, but I'm about to go with last season's MVP, Cam Newton, as the least valuable player so far.
Interesting.
A 1-5 Carolina team that, by all accounts, we thought was better this year than they were last year, and he's really been atrocious. I mean, he hasn't done anything that was even half as good yet, in my opinion. I'm trying to see his actual stats, but I know they're not good. I can tell you that much. Let's see. He's thrown for 1,300 yards, which is like towards the bottom of the league. Has 8 touchdowns and 6 interceptions, and the team is 1-5. And there's a really good chance they don't make the playoffs. So that's my reasoning there.
Okay, so for my least valuable player, there's a couple guys that come to mind. Fitzpatrick is one of them. Honorable mention for this. Joe Flacco's secretly been pretty bad this year. He has 5 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's one of the lowest guys in the league in yards per attempt. He does have a decent completion percentage, but as you saw in his game against you guys a couple weeks ago, like on that last drive, the Ravens had every opportunity to win that game, and Flacco was just terrible on that drive.
You're telling me.
Yeah, like he really bailed you guys out with how terrible he was. But
thanks for just taking everything the Giants did in that game and throwing it right out the window.
No, they were good on offense, but the defense was just giving Flacco all kinds of space, and he just wasn't using it.
Yeah, well, not everybody can have no-name guys that play stupidly well for some reason.
Well, Dak Prescott's not a no-name for
No, your defense is a no-name.
I got
Sean
okay.
Lee. Sean Lee and Orlando Scandrick, and only Morris Claiborne because he can't pass his Wonderlic test.
Yeah, jeez, that's not a good
all right,
one.
anyways.
But, so I'm actually going to go with a guy I liked a lot before the season. You're going to be very happy that I'm making this pick, but I'm going with Brock Osweiler.
Yes!
Player.
Yes! Yes!
Even though the Texans are in a playoff spot if the season ended today.
Which is pathetic, but anyways.
Yeah, they're 4-3. They're 4-0 at home and 0-3 on the road, which is just kind of an interesting stat tidbit there. But the reason they're doing okay is because their defense has actually played pretty well. In terms of points points scored, they're the lowest in the AFC, and they're winning their division. They have one of the lower points allowed, which is helpful, but they have a minus 37-point differential. They're not playing well, and I could easily see them not making playoffs, and it has a lot to do with Osweiler. His completion percentage is 58%. He has the lowest yards per attempt among qualified quarterbacks in the league. He's thrown 8 interceptions already, which is pretty high on that list also. He has a low QBR. He's really just not playing well in any facet of the quarterback game right now.
Not to mention, he gets to throw to DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, and Lamar Miller, who most quarterbacks would kill to throw to.
Yeah, like Will Fuller has been pretty good. Like people kind of ripped that pick, including both of us, but he's been pretty good when Osweiler's been able to put it in his hands. He's added a lot to that offense. It's just
he does still have his drop problems that everyone's worried about, but
that's true.
But he's definitely an explosive player that helps any offense.
Right, and you'd think he would have fit well with Osweiler because Osweiler had this reputation like, oh, he's got a cannon for an arm, which he does, but you can't locate it whatsoever. So.
No, not even a little.
So yeah, Brock Osweiler is my LVP this year.
Wow, we could just stop the show right now. That made me so happy.
Yeah, I know. Well, at least I didn't make Bradford my MVP. Not going there.
If they won
enough times already.
If they won last week, I was doing it, but they didn't. So, all right. You want to stick with individuals and go with Coach of the Year now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So my Coach of the Year. I think I know who you're gonna pick, so it's gonna make me upset. But my Coach of the Year is gonna be Jack Del Rio, leaving his job in Denver, taking the head coaching job in Oakland, and taking an Oakland team to a 5-2 record where they are currently tied for the division lead. Yes, that is the Oakland Raiders, believe it or not, is tied for the division lead. The defense on paper should be okay, but then when you actually watch them, they don't fit together well, and they still have a lot of holes. And somehow he's managed to get 5 wins out of them. And I mean, their 2 losses, like they had a pretty bad loss to the Chiefs where they got crushed. But then they lost by 7 to the Falcons week 2, and I really think they should have won that game. So
yeah, it's not a terrible loss.
Yeah.
Either.
And the Chiefs aren't a bad loss either. Like, the Chiefs are a good team. They've always played well against the Raiders. So, just the fact that the Raiders are 5-2, pretty much control their own destiny to make a playoff spot. I think that's fantastic coaching by a first year. Well, he's been a head coach before, but the first year he's been with this team is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think he's certainly a good option. I'm not going to argue with that. You might have thought I was going to say Jason Garrett.
I did think that.
I'm still wary of Jason Garrett. I've had a lot of years of not thinking he was a good coach. I'm not quite ready to give up on that yet. I'm going with Mike Zimmer as my coach of the year of the Minnesota Vikings. They did lose last week, but they've looked like one of the better teams in the league all season. And he just gets rave reviews. Anybody you hear from in the game says Mike Zimmer is one of the top 5 coaches in the league, and that's really being borne out this year. He's really built up his team a lot, and especially this defense. I mean, this defense is arguably the best in the NFL. They've only given up 84 points all season in 6 games, which is really freaking good. So he's known as a defensive coach, so I would give him a lot of credit for how well the defense has played. So yeah, it'd be Mike Zimmer for me for coach of the year.
And to glance over someone that very easily and almost probably, but very easily could be coach of the year, Bill Belichick, to go.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can make the argument that he should just win it every year. It's like Popovich.
I mean, he goes 3-1 without Tom Brady, and now they're sitting at 6-1. Like, don't have a worry in the world because Buffalo's 4-3. They're about to beat Buffalo. They'll be 3 games up in the division, not even just halfway through the season. So, I mean, the dude's a wizard. That's all you have to say.
Here's what makes me so mad about this season. Roger Goodell has turned Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and New England Patriots into like a feel-good story we're all rooting for. Like, how awful can someone be to make you root for the Patriots?
Like I'm thoroughly enjoying Tom Brady's F you to the league.
Everyone. This is awesome, and I'm like, wait, stop it.
Wait, I've hated him my whole life. What do you mean, Bill Brady? So yeah, we'll go worst coach now. There's a lot of candidates for this.
Lots of these.
I'm going to go with one of my least favorite people on the entire planet, Chip Kelly. Can't stand the man whatsoever because wherever he goes, he's like a cancer. He just ruins everything. Currently in San Francisco with a 1-6 team. He's so bad that he might have actually brainwashed this team to think they were good at 1-6. I don't know if Jonah saw this, but 2 weeks ago, I think it was, Aaron Lynch, who's a outside linebacker / defensive end for the 49ers, pretty young guy, came out and said that they have the most talented roster in the NFL. Yeah, just going to leave that one there for a minute. Let that sit with you guys.
Would Oregon hire him back right now?
No.
We're going to be in the market for
him. Not even if they. I mean, I don't know. Nothing he does is good. He immediately he signs before he even signs a contract with the 49ers. He's like, yeah, I want control of literally everything here. It's like, all right, dude, you just got ran out of town in Philly because you suck and you're rude. Exactly. So he's ruining the team. I mean, they really are. They're not good. Like on paper, they're not even good. But you still
they need a quarterback.
They do, and the fact that when Blaine Gabbert was starting and Kaepernick was second on the depth chart, they signed
Kaepernick should work with Kelly though.
Exactly, and they signed Christian Ponder as like a insurance type of thing. No, listen to this part. This is the best part. So the week before they promoted Kaepernick to starting quarterback, there was a petition in the 49ers locker room started by the players to have, wait for it, Christian Ponder be the starting quarterback.
Oh my God.
They were literally asking, can we start Christian Ponder? And what does Chip Kelly do? Hey, I think we're going to go with Colin Kaepernick this week. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's terribly.
I don't know what to tell you. He doesn't know how to coach football. He doesn't have even the littlest, tiniest bit of a clue. And this also shows how great of a coach Jim Harbaugh was. You're welcome. Because more or less he has a similar roster and has the same damn quarterback. And Harbaugh made him a Super Bowl quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I think Chip Kelly is one of those coaches that's a college coach. He's a lot like John Calipari, and we think of the two of them very similarly. So
yeah, because they're just assholes, and they somehow recruit good players and fit their system.
Yeah, exactly. So for my worst coach, I'm going with the guy a lot of people are talking about as a bad coach lately, and that's Gus Bradley of the Jaguars.
I second that vote.
Yeah, this team did have potential before the season. This is like the one thing I was right about, though. against Zach. Like Zach had like every other thing right, but I did have right that the Jaguars are not going to be good this year.
They're still 2 games out of first place, just so everybody knows.
This division is a travesty that's true, and it is true. But yeah, I mean, they've certainly underachieved for the amount of talent that they have, for sure, and that's a lot to do with poor coaching. You subjected yourself to that Thursday night game last night.
I did. I did, and I hope no one else did the same, but I did.
Yeah, really. I mean, someone had to do it, I guess. And you were telling me that like they're just having basic defensive issues.
Yeah. And he's a defensive coach, mind you.
That's right. He's a defensive coach. He came over as a guy who had this great reputation in Seattle as a great defensive coordinator. And they have so many pieces on this defense. Like, this defense should be good, and it's just not. I mean, there's not much more else to say, really, about the coaching job he's done. But if they get a good coach in there, this could be a solid team. They're just not going anywhere with this coaching staff right now.
Yeah, so just a few more things on that. So Dante Fowler Jr., who was the 3rd pick in last year's draft, well, I guess 2 years ago, if you want to say that, was hurt his entire rookie season, tore his ACL in the first time he stepped on a football field in OTAs or whatever it was. Finally is back. Finally is healthy. Has a decent sack performance against somebody early on, and now he's benched. The dude doesn't even play 20 snaps. Like, he should absolutely be a starting defensive end in this league on any team. Well, not any team, but on most teams. And he would be playing a decent amount of snaps on any team. And he's barely even playing on a team that's 2-5. They have Jalen Ramsey is really good. I mean, he's much better as a press corner and come up and stop the run. Like, he still has some issues he needs to work out, but for a rookie, he's been impressive to me. Their linebacking core is good. They have guys that can get to the passer. They have good safeties. I mean, there's not a lot of holes in this team. They should be much, much better than 2-5. They have not played a hard schedule. Like, it's just...
No, they really haven't.
I was telling Jonah that the Thursday night game, they played the Titans, who everyone knows wants to run the ball. They don't want to put the ball in Marcus Mariota's hands and have him throw it that often because they have a really good run game, and they just don't need to throw the ball. So you know they're going to line up and run it. Obviously, you're going to stack the box, which the Jaguars did, and still gave up 250 yards on the ground. And 40 freaking points. If you give up 250 yards, you usually give up like 20 points because it's a long, drawn-out game. You barely have the ball. It's like a 20-10 type of score. They gave up 40 freaking points, just letting the ball be run down their throat. It was disgusting.
It's only because DeMarco Murray's amazing, man.
There was literally a play. It was 3rd and 13 from the 3-yard line. Tennessee had the ball on their own 3-yard line, 3rd and 13. Just a little draw up the middle. DeMarco Murray busts it for 30 yards on 3rd and 13. Like, you know what's coming. I don't understand. Oh my God, it's so bad. I literally don't have a horse in the race. Like, I couldn't care if they were terrible or if they were fantastic, but it's just bad to watch. It's such a good team be so bad.
Yeah, Murray is leading the league in rushing right now. Did you know that?
Yeah, but Zeke didn't play yet.
Right. I mean, it's only because of that. He'd probably also be behind David Johnson, but he'd be no worse than 3rd.
I mean, most people thought he was going to be the backup running back there too, with Derrick Henry taking the lead.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Jaguars need to go 9-0 in order for them to fulfill the record that I predicted at the beginning of the season. So in time interest, do you want to go on now to just the ratings issues? Yeah, that works.
That's the thing we should talk about.
Sure.
Yeah, so one big storyline surrounding football, surrounding pro football, has been that the ratings for the season in the NFL have been the worst they've been at this point in the season in a really long time. The NFL has just kind of taken for granted that ratings were just growing every year, and they were. But ratings have been significantly down this year. There's been some outside explanations of that. Some attributed it to the presidential election because cable news ratings have been up a lot, and that's going to take away from football. People are focusing on other things. it's certainly possible we'll see an uptick when the election's over. People are talking about it's been partly due to very exciting baseball playoffs, which we've had, but football has not been in a position to be losing ratings to baseball in a really long time. So people have been asking, like, what within the game is or could be a cause for these declining ratings. I saw Darren Rovell, who I'm a huge non-fan of. I hate Darren Rovell, but he tweeted some poll where it was like, "Oh, it's the national anthem protests that are causing a drop in NFL ratings." But that poll was like, they asked people what they thought the cause was, and everyone who said that was the problem was still watching. So, like, that was clearly a stupid poll and a stupid conclusion to take from it. It's not the national anthem protests, believe me. It's just not. So there's a couple factors that it could be. I know you're putting a lot of this on Roger Goodell, so I'll let you rant about that for a little bit.
All right, so basically what I said to Jonah today is that there shouldn't even be ticket prices anymore because the NFL is making so much money off of player fines that it's just absolutely ridiculous. For example, Odell Beckham has been fined over $100,000 through 8 weeks of the season, and I couldn't even tell you what he did wrong. I really couldn't. He got fined, I think it was $25,000 because his game-winning touchdown against, who was it? Who did we play before the Rams? The Ravens? Game-winning touchdown against the Ravens. He gets into the end zone, goes through the back of the end zone, takes his helmet off after getting out of bounds, and runs over to the sideline where we got a flag. Okay, fine, you're not supposed to take your helmet off on the field. The fact that you fine him $25,000 for taking his goddamn helmet off on the field, are you kidding?
Yeah, I agree. I hate the Giants as much as anybody, but, like, it's... yeah, I mean, flag it. Like, throw a flag. It's, in the rules. You're not allowed to take your helmet off. That's
yeah,
fine.
but put them, keep them. Right, what the hell? Exactly.
Like,
the penalty is supposed to teach you, like, okay, learn your lesson. Don't take your helmet off the field.
Right,
you just
don't take your helmet off. It's not like you're a bad guy for taking your helmet off. It's just like you just don't take your helmet
exactly.
off.
So I'm gonna lean a lot on Richard Sherman for this argument because I read a story that he wrote about what he thinks of this. So he's basically, and Josh Norman's saying the same thing. Richard Sherman said Antonio Brown can't twerk in the end zone, but literally right next to Antonio Brown twerking in the end zone are the cheerleaders twerking for fan entertainment. And then Josh Norman and Brandon Cooks can't use the bow and arrow celebration because it's violent. Yet the game that you're literally selling to the fans is the most violent game that you could possibly play, maybe other than rugby. And then you have Josh Norman was making the argument that, like, you're trying to portray a good image for kids, yet every time you watch a football game, it's beer is plastered everywhere. There's liquor commercials. There's, like, things that kids probably shouldn't be seeing. Then there was also a fine given to Andrew Hawkins, who plays for the Browns last week. He caught the ball in the end zone, went to the back pylon, placed the ball on the ground, did like a soldier turn, and just marched up back to the bench, acting like, hey, Roger Goodell, ass-faced, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and not showboating. And he was fined for that because it was said, yeah, because they said that he was paying, like, he was going against the league or something, like revolting almost. It's like, what dictator are you that you can just decide, okay, you get fined, you get fined, you get fined, you get fined?
Yeah, Andrew Hawkins himself wrote a thing about it for Sports Illustrated.
Yeah.
That, like,
and then you get those serious, huge issues like domestic violence, which in my opinion is one of the worst things in this universe, if not the worst. And you get Ray Rice beat the crap, no pun intended, out of his wife and gets 2 games. Well, he's not in the league anymore, and that's solely due to the fact that teams know if they signed him, their fans would go ballistic. And then they put rules in place to make sure that they have ample fines and ample suspensions for when things like that happen. Josh Brown is a wife abuser for 20-plus years, and he gets 1 game. one game, and he got a contract extension while this investigation was going on. So I think it's a lot of fans just saying like, dude, this is messed up. Like you have no idea what you're doing. And again, Richard Sherman had a really good idea, in my opinion, of getting like 5 or 6 retired NFL players together and saying, we'll have like a judicial board kind of thing, or even having like an independent arbitrator, something other than Roger Goodell, because you cannot have someone who's in a position of power who is more or less controlled by the owners and only the owners. And Jonah brought up a good point where he has zero interest in the players whatsoever. He doesn't care to protect them. He doesn't care to make sure that they're making money. Like nothing.
Right, because they're not paying his checks.
Exactly. It's all about the owners and all those guys giving the money to Roger Goodell. And because of that, you're seeing these stupid fines. Like, I literally live for these celebrations in the end zone. I cannot tell you how awesome some of these celebrations are. I mean, it's what you're watching, an entertainment. The NFL is supposed to be entertainment, and you're taking every ounce of entertainment out of the game and making people just watch the game for the game, which really isn't even a game anymore. I mean, I know like my mom, for example, watches the football games because she loves seeing all the emotion and like Odell like triple jumping in the end zone as a celebration. And these guys can't, like, they have to act like robots in order to not be fined and not all this stuff. And I have a British professor here that says that football is the worst sport ever because there's like no what does he say? There's no like uniqueness to anything. The players can't be themselves. It's not a beautiful game like soccer is. And he's right in most parts because they have to live by such a book where they can't express themselves at all, or else they could be fined or suspended or whatever. And it's such a joke. And that's why I think that the fans are finally thinking like, wow, this is really bad. Like Roger Goodell has really ruined this.
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly found myself like on a given Monday night, I'd rather watch whatever NBA game is on than watch Monday Night Football because it's just more interesting. And I think it has a lot to do with how it's become so regimented and stuff. I think another factor is just that the games themselves have been really bad all year. Like, it's just been a lot of sloppy play. These haven't been really enjoyable games to watch. And that doesn't necessarily go directly back to Goodell, but it's because of rules that he's presided over. The games are just dull. I mean, the biggest example of that is the Seahawks-Cardinals game on Sunday night. Like, it was like, oh, haha, like, this game is so terrible, and, like, people kind of hate-watched it, but it's an example of how poor the quality of play has been pretty much all season. Besides the Patriots, is there any team where you're like, oh, yeah, that team is really good, like, that team looks really awesome?
No, and the Patriots are only that way since Brady came back.
Right. So, like, we're getting a sort of competitive balance in the league, but it's not a good kind of competitive balance. Like, everyone just kind of looks mediocre. And I think there's salary cap stuff that is contributing to that, and I think next time there's a new CBA negotiated, there might be something passed that will lend itself to that. Another issue, I think, is that there's not as many veterans in the game as there used to be because it's impossible to hold on to their cap hits. So if you have a veteran who's been on your team for a long time, you're more likely than ever to just cut him loose and try some 7th-round pick there. And that's all well and good, but when you have all these young guys in there, the games are sloppy because they don't know where to go on given plays, they don't know the playbook as well, etc. So I think that's contributing a lot to why the games are bad. And I think what you said about it not being fun makes the games not watchable when they're bad. Sometimes it's fun to watch a bad game.
Right.
So I think overall there's just a lack of like super exciting stuff going on in the league, and hopefully viewership will take back up. Maybe it's better if it stays down for a couple of years because it'll force them to change some things.
Yeah, and to your point, that the NFL was so highly touted. 2 years ago, it was like, wow, people might not even turn on another sport anymore. Like, it's NFL, all NFL. All people want to watch the NFL. and now it's like people don't even know that football season started because it's so bad, and it's so unfortunate because I think we have such a good crop of young talent right now, like baseball does. I mean, baseball has Chris Bryant, Bryce Harper, Mike Trout, like the list goes on. Francisco
You forgot
Lindor.
Schwarber.
Yes, how could I forget? We'll get there. We'll get there in 30 seconds. So, like, I mean, you have Odell, Julio Jones, AJ Green. Those are just wide receivers. Like, you have forever of a list of great players that are young and going to be around forever. And
Ezekiel Elliott. I whispered quietly.
I said wide receivers.
Okay, I'm just putting it out there.
But there's such a good crop of talent, and one, that crop of talent's not getting to express themselves and play the way that I think they all want to play, and two, nobody's getting to see them play the way they want to because the NFL doesn't allow it, and soon you're just going to start losing viewers left and right, more so than they already have. So either, like you said, pick up the level of play or allow some sort of excitement. I saw a top 10 play I think it was like a week ago. I don't know if you saw this, but it was the Chinese Indoor Football League where there is zero unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. So you can celebrate, like you can run up in the stands, run a lap around the arena, like throw the ball at an opponent after you score a touchdown, whatever you want. Like you can just go crazy. This guy, same guy scored a touchdown. He like did this fencing matchup against his teammate with the football. Then he body slammed the football and pinned it to the ground like WWE, and then he ran into the 50-yard line and did like a break dance with the football. Like that's so cool to watch. I would love to see Odell do that, or Julio Jones do that, or someone like that would be awesome to see. And we can't even get the guy smile because if he does, he might get fined.
Yeah, I'm in on that. I'm in.
So that was our spiel about how much Roger Goodell sucks and how badly we need Barack Obama to be the commissioner of the NFL. Next, we're going to, for like 10 minutes, talk about the World Series, which is currently tied 1-1 between the Cubs and the Indians. And the Cubs are playing a home World Series game for the first time in 71 years.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, this has been
Kyle Schwarber.
Awesome baseball playoffs. We haven't. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, you gotta get him in there. We haven't been talking a ton about it, but this has been one of the most exciting baseball playoffs, despite the fact that the Mets are out in the wild card game. I barely consider that to be part of the playoffs. Like that's a crappy game to lose. I know Yankees fans had that happen last year, so like.
Yeah, but they didn't deserve to be in the playoffs anyways.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's been a great playoffs for baseball. Like ratings are as high as they've ever been for the baseball playoffs, which has come at the expense of the NFL, like you said. But this World Series is about the best thing you could have written storyline wise, because the Indians obviously have not gone as long as the Cubs without a World Series, but they haven't won in I think almost 70 years. I think the last time they won was 1948, I want to say.
Yeah, I think you're right. That 76 years, I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah,
it's 48 was the last time they won. So one of these teams is going to end a long drought this year. There's a storyline with Cleveland about how after going so long without anything, they've become like championship city all of a sudden. Yeah, it's going to be incredible to watch a World Series game at Wrigley tonight. I'm really excited for that. We've got Kyle Hendricks, who's a Dartmouth alum, starting tonight in Game 3.
Oh, wow. Impressive.
Yeah. Our like one athlete is actually a pretty significant guy. So he's starting tonight. The wind at Wrigley is supposed to be blowing in gusts up to 35 miles an hour out to left field.
Oh, yes.
And it's already a pretty small ballpark.
Yes.
So expect to see several hundred home runs tonight. Yeah, I mean, if Schwarber was starting, he might hit 4. As it is now, he'll pinch hit and hit 1.
Nah, he'll probably hit 2. He'll get out twice in the same inning. Or maybe he'll just hit 2 in a row. Yeah.
But yeah, this is going to be a great rest of the World Series. It's 1-1 right now. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I think so. The reason I said Kyle Schwarber at the beginning, just to give some background, is because I think that I personally think he's the best hitter on the Cubs. Jonah thinks he's like third or fourth, which
I think he's third. I think I'd put him behind Bryant and Rizzo, which is no disrespect to Schwarber.
No, yeah, exactly. And me saying that Schwarber's the best is zero respect to Bryant and Rizzo, Zobrist, like the list goes. Addison Russell. I mean, they legitimately have 9 guys that I'd be afraid to face. But the man is leading the nation in the history of baseball in OPS, and I potentially slugging percentage. Not too sure about that one. But during World Series history, and he has 3 RBIs, I think, right, so far?
I think so.
2 or 3, close enough. He's hitting the ball great. So before Game 1, he said that 6 days ago he didn't even think that he could walk onto a baseball field, let alone play, and he started Game 1 of the World Series.
It's impressive, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, I mean, Jonah and I really like this Cubs team just because they're so fun to watch and there's so many young guys. Like, Bryant's young, Rizzo's young, Schwarber's young, Russell's young, Fowler's decently young. However, I do really like the Indians team, too. I think Francisco Lindor might be the best player that no one's ever heard of.
Yeah, Francisco Lindor is one of, like, a group of, like, a bunch of really young shortstops who's coming into the league right now. It's like him, Corey Seager, who's for sure going to win National League Rookie of the Year this year. Carlos Correa for Houston.
Addison Russell.
Bogaerts, Addison Russell, who's also in this World Series. There's a great young class of shortstops coming in right now.
Trey Turner.
Francisco Lindor might not be the best of them, but he's definitely the most exciting to watch. He just plays the game with so much energy. He reminds me, and you're going to roll your eyes at this, but he reminds me of when Jose Reyes came up.
No, that's fine.
And hopefully he doesn't go on to have a similar history of domestic abuse. But he's a great guy to watch. And yeah, I don't know, most of the conversation is going to surround the Cubs because of, you know, the obvious storylines of the Cubs having not won the World Series in such a long time. But yeah, I think it's gonna be really exciting to watch the rest of this World Series. It's like my number 1 sports viewing priority at nights now, which says a lot in the month of October when there's so much going on. So
yeah, I think Cleveland has a lot of good momentum in the city, and I can't even imagine what it would be like for that city to have no championships for such a long stretch and then have 2 in a row between basketball and baseball, which is just meaning that the Browns are almost guaranteed to win the next 9 games, make the playoffs, and then make a championship run. But
can you freaking imagine?
Seriously, what if that happened? What if the Indians won, the Browns go 9-0 to finish the season 9-7, sneak out a wild card, and then win it all?
I think, Jesus, I don't know.
You would have to just freeze that city because everything from there on would just be the worst possible thing because you could never top that.
It'd be all downhill from
there.
Exactly.
And I still think it could be downhill from here because, I mean, you go so long without getting anything, then you get 2, and it's like, oh, God, now we got to wait a while.
Right, exactly.
But, yeah, this is a great World Series. I think this will be a decent game tonight. Hendricks has been really good. He's 1-1, and his loss is a 1-0 loss against Clayton Kershaw. So, like, take that as you will.
Yeah, for sure.
But it'll be interesting to see. We got basketball just started, which we'll talk more about next week, just to save time. Football is heating up mid-season. Baseball is winding down, and hockey's also just getting started. So this is the 1 month of the year where we get everything, basically. Unfortunately, we don't get college basketball in time for, well, when's Game 7 of the World Series? Do you know?
Let's see. Game 7 of the World Series, if necessary, would be November 2nd.
Yeah, which is not in time. We have some exhibition basketball games started, but the actual season doesn't start till, I think, November 11th is opening night. So that would be nice to see that at the same time, but you still get a lot of... Yeah.
We get to talk about it soon.
Right, we get a lot of good sports, so that'll do her. Anything else you want to say?
I think that's good.
Have you said Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott's name enough? I know I said Kyle Schwarber plenty of times.
I think plenty. I think I'm all set.
Okay, all right, good.
I don't think I need to speak it in again.
Yeah, we can say it next weekend.
All right.
All right, that'll do it. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.